I thought I'd just do a short video on some of the topics that have been discussed lately and just past my eyes, if you will. And one such topic is this new energy performance of buildings directive that has been rolled out in the EU. It comes in on different names in other territories and countries under the guise of climate change and carbon emission credits that will be rolled out sooner than later, whereby they're going to get homeowners to have to spend money into their houses in order to meet certain standards that they're going to roll out. Excuse me. Um, that if you don't invest in reducing the carbon footprint of your house, then you'll be fined. And if you are not fined and you're going to put that you want to meet these criteria, well, you're more or less going to be paying, thousands upon thousands and thousands of dollars in order to meet these standards, to which a lot of people won't be able to afford because of the economy slowing down and because of inflation. So they're going to get you coming or going. And this is an initiative, of course, international initiative through those unelected institutions like the World Economic Forum and United Nations and those sort of things and institutions. This is and has been always planned. It's not per se the surface level discussions of, there's elite that are just greedy and they're usurping everybody's land, and there's going to be a wealth transfer, and you're going to own nothing to be happy. And on the surface, those are correct descriptions, but it's not the explanation. And that's what I wanted to get on here and speak about quickly. And something that I have been continually posting about, that what is in essence truly happening is that the law is being fulfilled. Okay, so if you don't come to know the law, then you're going to be wrapped up in the description and not knowing what you can do in order to offset the incoming or the upcoming credit or carbon credit system that no way you're going to be able to avoid unless you're going to, take up arms and go against the government. That's the only alternative that you have. It's coming one way or another, because, like I've said, it's law that's moving the entire agenda. They're following law, and you and majority who are not understanding what law is are now going to be if I use for lack of a better word, the victim from your own misunderstanding or ignorance of what law is. The entirety of English law, and if you're under English law, then it means this is a settlement of a trust for sale program that started in 1925. And like the name says, trust for sale gives you a preemptive concept that somewhere along the line that it's going to be settled. And this is what's happening now. That trust for sale has to be settled. All the accounting has to be brought to its zero balance in order to initiate a new settlement, which will be the fourth level of a trust, whereby no longer do citizens who are acting as quasi-trustees to the land that they're on or holding is now going to be moved into trustees who will facilitate and administrate the entirety of all property rights under a new directive, which then will put all the power in these trustees and no power in the quasi-trustees, custodians, or however you want to call them, which are just merely citizens. They will no longer have the property rights and privileges that they once held because that's the end game of the settlement. It's to remove the, you know what, it's going to sound odd when I say it, but it's true in how the law looks at it, remove the burden of all the quasi-trustees to take care of the land as they're supposed to be taken care of in their subsequent tenure or tenancy. And what they're saying is no longer you need to be employed as a quasi-trustee. We're going to put it all into the trustees, and we're going to manage it all, and you'll be coming in under that scapegoat, if you will, under that program, under that settlement, under the fourth level, where they're just using different terminology. Like we were brought into the education system using the concept of the third industrial revolution. Well, they're using now the fourth industrial revolution, which is the trust settlement, to move into another trust, whereby the trust for sale that you have been under since 1925 is going to be settled in all the accounting. That is what the explanation is. You have the description, and you can name names and point fingers all you want. Those are just the puppets, if you will, that due to the ignorance of what law is, the system is using words that you and I can relate to easier because we can't relate to the words that are actually moving the agenda, which is words of law and trust for sales and settlements and estate interest and equitable interest and legal interest and all the words that we hand over to lawyers to speak for us, and they themselves don't even know what the law is. They're only speaking within a dynamic of how the system interprets the trust for sale, not what is held before the trust or in the trust, which is in the common law, which is the land. Equity holds the equitable interest, which is the right of use. Common law holds the legal title, and we begin that right from the statute of uses 1535 through to the Sesquiquy Act of 1707, which gave remedy for those who, through reversion or remainder, have an interest or a future interest in that equitable, not the equitable, the legal title, and which the government then administrates those interests that are subject to under the trust. So the common law is the driver, the equity is the machine or the mechanics, and bottom line, the trust for sale is being settled. No matter how you want to look at it, and if you want to bring out your torches and pitchforks and that kind of thing, what essentially you're doing, and that dissension in the ranks, if you will, and that discourse will result in you agreeing to the agreement of being under a trust for sale because you've been purchasing property and you've been accepting privileges from the government. So you've accepted the entirety of the law, and now you're not accepting it, but you're not accepting it for the reasons that you should understand, but you're coming in under the description and thereby thinking that there's the elite that are, through deception, taking away property. Well, the property that you have is a right of possession, not a right technically of ownership, and that possession creates the ownership, not the ownership that creates possession, because you don't have legal title in the sense it's held in the common law. You never had it. You've agreed to hold an interest as a quasi-trustee, as a citizen, as a tenant for life, to use that property and take care of it for those individuals who are in common law who hold that right. And those are lords and such that have, just like the days of the feudal land tenure, they would just hold a manor, and then they would have lords under them, and then they would have, those lords would have villinas and serfs and peasants and everything. Everybody had a directive of where they fit within the chain. And right, it's the same thing, that you're experiencing, but you're not understanding how it is and how it relates to you, and that property that you're holding relates to you. So I wanted to get that out there, that if you don't take the time to understand what your interests are, then someone has to control it for you, because your intent is not known. You've never relayed your intent to that legal title that's held in common law. You've not said anything. So after the age of 21, when you reach full age in the common law, it just presumes you have made that decision. You want to be 100% responsible and say that you're making every decision and you have free will. Well, the law says, yeah, okay, you have free will. You've made the decision by your actions. But you made that decision voluntarily through ignorance. And you've just got stuck in the system, and the system is a matrix. It's the illusion. It's the fiction. That everything under it is fictional. It's the illusion of that you own property. It's the illusion that there is the sciences that are under it are correct. The illusion that you've bought anything. When you've borrowed, all money is brought into existence through the borrowing of those agreements from a contract with the government. So you are just using borrowed money in order to purchase something that you think you own. Well, it's the reason why it's borrowed, because you're just exchanging things within a trust for sale. You're just moving it around as a quasi-trustee. You don't have any rights to fully own it outside of the government, because the government's the one who created those interests for you to use. So until you get into imbibe your true power, you're going to be construed to be you've made an agreement to affect the single personality, and that single personality is your state or your country and territory. That's a single personality that you're in agreement with it. And until you make your intent known as an individual using the law, 1700 is the Act of Settlements, which recognized that the English law is the birthright of the people. Until you affect that birthright in the proper in proper jurisdiction, which has to equate to both subject matter. So what is the subject matter you want to deal with? Well, it's land. It's not the property under government, but it's land held in the monarchy, not in the crown. Crown is the legal personage of the monarchy. So in the monarchy, that's through operational law, that holds that land interest. That's where your land is held. That's where you have all the power. And until you make your intent known and say, you know what, I no longer want to be construed as the Seswicky Trust, which is the beneficiary, and from there, I don't want to be noticed as a tenant for life who's holding a property interest under the government. I want to be now made my intent known. I want to remove that presumption, affect what they would call your dominion right, which everyone has, born with. You can't transfer that. That's absolute. And you want to settle, invest that interest in the common law, which is the illegal title. Okay. Until you do that, no one's doing anything to you. Yeah, it sounds that way descriptively, like I've already said. There's some bad players out there, and they're stealing everything, and they're using certain fictional concepts, such as climate change. Climate change is happening within the system, within the fiction. So is the other thing that I won't say the word, because that will trigger some responses that may not allow this video to be out. Same with that other thing that we've been trained to believe that exists. It doesn't exist, never existed. Okay? But as soon as we argue the point, and that's the other thing that I will mention, that every time that you fight those ideas within the court, well, what are you doing? You're saying, well, it's real. See how it works? As soon as you use lawyers, you're dealing within the system and you're making it real. So therefore, as soon as it becomes real, it sets a precedence. And now you're fighting with the thing that wasn't even real in the first place, but now it's made real in the system. So now you're going to fight within that dynamic. See, that's all that's happening here. And then every time you're fighting with your property, and it's my property, I have my right. I paid for it. I have no mortgage. Yeah. Well, what'd you buy that with? You bought property under trust for sale with borrowed fiat currency in order to do that. Well, if it's borrowed, think about it. It has to be returned. Why is every country in debt? Just because it's not what has ever done or will ever do to set off that value you hold. It's always hinged upon debt. You're always using debt. You've always used debt. You're trading things, whether it's a car or a pencil or a property. You're trading. You never owned it. Okay? Never have you owned it full right. No one can own a allodial title to anything, or allodium. You can't. It doesn't exist in English law. You're a tenant as long as you remain in English law. Okay? So, that is the truth of what's happening. And if you bring up your pitchforks and your torches and start claiming your rights, that's my property and you can't take it away, well, how does that go on in history? You're playing the Game of Thrones in a roundabout means, which I'm understanding what that game is. And they're going to come and take it away. They have to. They'll create the concept of fascism. You'll see that. You'll see communism. You'll see atrocities. You'll see people being killed. But they're not in the system. They're getting killed. And that's why they can create wars and do all those things, because they're in alignment with the agreements. You're no longer acting as an individual, as a live sentient being. You're acting as a corporate entity that has made all of these agreements, and because the agreements have to be held in honor, you're now in dishonor and being disobedient because you're going against what the law has already stated and which you've already agreed to. And because you are ignorant of what that agreement was, they have to treat everyone like children and saying, take your medicine. It's for the benefit of public health, and public health is not anything, it has nothing to do with an individual, never has. For instance, if public health would be under this type of determination, that if there were 100 people on the ship and it was sinking and 49 of them had to be jump off the ship in order for the 51 to live and survive, that's public health. That decision would be made. Those tough decisions would be made. Because they're not dealing with individual lives. They've never dealt with individual lives. All wars have been equity wars. All demics, and I won't put the first word in, are all equity. They're not real. They're just a means in which to reach an end, because it is presumed that everybody knows the agreement, and the agreement that they've dealt with, and that agreement has to fulfill the obligation that it was intended, the instrument that it's under, outlines which gives the exact directives of what needs to be done with that instrument, and everyone signed off on it. So that's going to continue on. We're going, the international alphabet companies are doing, they're just the organizations of what needs to be done in order to reach the final end, to fulfill the obligation that you made an agreement to via your own ignorance. And you don't want anything in the system anyway. It's the same, the exactly same thing as monopoly. There's nothing on that board you want. It comes with taxes, and it comes with penalties and fines, and it comes with those who have and those who have not. And the whole concept of monopoly is to bankrupt your neighbor. The bank can never go bankrupt. It's the one, the creator of the money, and no matter if there's no more money to exchange around the board, they'll create IOUs. It's just, that's all you're doing. That's all you've ever done. Just get over it. The sooner you get over it, the sooner you get your power, and then you realize that, Dorothy, you've always had the power. And with that, we'll end this video and have yourself a great day.